We appreciate your patience. Justin, you ready to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, Kevin, let's go ahead.
Awesome. Well, I'm Kevin Cutter. I've been with the Tevora consultancy for about 5 years, primarily covering the Midwest territory for the organization. 2023 actually marks our 20th year in business, doing nothing but professional services in information security and compliance since our inception. So for those of you that are joining us, we are covering today's topic of HIPAA in the year of artificial intelligence. I'm joined by Justin Graham. Justin is Tevora's associate manager of our healthcare practice, so covering anything from HIPAA, high trust, and related framework services. That's his bread and butter. And to cover today's agenda, obviously we're doing intros right now, and then we'll kind of dive into the meat, covering the 2023 year of artificial intelligence. What does it mean through definitions, benefits of artificial intelligence, applicable use cases of artificial intelligence threats, HIPAA control implementation and what it means for that framework, and then key takeaways. Before we switch over and I give you guys over to Justin, keep in mind that this is a open session. So if you guys have relevant questions as Justin is going through topics, we'll either cover those in real time or we will go over them at the end of today's session. So by all means, you're encouraged to use the Q&A tab at the bottom of the Zoom bridge to ask us anything that's top of mind. We're happy to help you guys out. So with that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Justin. We'll get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. My name is Justin Graham. I'm the manager of the healthcare tower here at Tevora. Here's a little bit about me. I lead our high trust and HIPAA practices, member of the High Trust External Assessor Council, and I think most importantly, I am not a data scientist, right? So when we're going into these conversations around AI, we're all new to this together, right? I found a great quote by Eliezer Yudkowsky. You can see on the bottom of the screen here. By far the greatest danger of artificial intelligence is that people conclude too early that they understand it, right? So we're all new to this together. I'm going to provide in this webinar some key takeaways specifically around how we're going to see AI deployed in the healthcare industry, how that relates to HIPAA compliance, and really go into some threats, specific AI threats that I think we all need to have on our radar. So with that, that's an introduction for me, a little bit about Tevora. Kevin talked a little bit about this, founded in 2003, main headquarters in Irvine, California. Here's some of our certifications, assessor status. You can see some of the work that we do and some of the awards that we have here. Within Tevora, we do compliance work, privacy risk, pen testing, incident response, cloud security, security solutions. I like to highlight the pen testing portion of that. You can see we specifically use the words world-class just from kind of, I'm privy in my role as a high trust assessor to see a lot of pen test reports, and I can tell you our guys are really good. It's not just people running automated scans. These guys are super talented. And I think our pen testing services are top notch. So with that, here is our NASCAR slide. You can see some of our clients. And here we go. AI is coming to healthcare, right? Whether or not we like it or not. AI has truly been the year of AI. I remember earlier in this year, there was a lot of buzz around ChatGPT when that came out. I know that I started the journey down the path of trying to figure out what AI was. And I started probably in Q1 of this year, 2023. And what's really interesting as I went through this, I'm very hands-on. So, I looked for specific areas in my work, in my day-to-day, where I saw opportunities to bring in some AI technologies. And the way that my mind works, I'm very analytical. So I really, wanted to understand how to implement this technology. So, training LLMs on specific workflows. And I can tell you this, when I started down this path earlier this year, I had a lot of questions. And I can tell you, honestly, that after I did a deep dive into AI, what is AI? How is this going to impact healthcare? I have more questions now than I started. And I think that everybody in healthcare, as security leaders, we need to understand the technology. We need to understand the threats AI brings to the enterprise, as well as how to leverage AI to gain efficiencies in security operations, right? So there's new threats out there in the world. There's new ways to mitigate these threats using AI-based technologies. And I think when you think about understanding the threats, that's probably the key point on this slide. AI right now is a risk management problem, right? When you think about HIPAA and you think about the HIPAA requirements of risk management and performing risk analysis, as security leaders and as if you're an individual who is in charge of risk management for an organization, you have to understand these threats to incorporate into your risk management works, right? You can't just be blindsided and leave out these threats, specific AI threats that are coming to healthcare. And I'm going to kind of dive in, do some real quick threat modeling with you here in a moment on some following slides, just to kind of help open you up to what's out there. Before we get into that, I did want to just very quickly run through a couple of definitions with you so we can kind of level set on the conversation around AI. So artificial intelligence can be broken down into two subsets, right? So artificial intelligence is a broad term. It refers to the ability of machines or systems to perform tasks that would normally require human intelligence. That's key. You can break that down to narrow or weak AI and then general or strong AI. For the most part, narrow AI, AI that's designed for a specific purpose, right? Workflow automation. I have this task that I think I can automate using AI technology. That's narrow. Where general or strong AI aims to achieve human-like intelligence across various domains. So think generative AI, AI chatbots, right? ChatGPT, like those kind of technologies. We can further break this down into the difference between AI and machine learning. The key point here with machine learning, it uses algorithms and statistical models to analyze data and take specific actions. It's more programmatic, where artificial intelligence is really emulating human thought, being able to feed LLM language and get language back, right? That's more human-like processes. So there's a very important distinction between machine learning and artificial intelligence that I think is very important distinction. And then the last two definitions I have here, you need to understand this is when you get more tactical into how implementing this technology. There's training sets and LLMs. Training sets are very important, and I'm going to expand on this, but a training set is the collection of data that you use to train an AI model how to perform a specific task. We're going to get into the importance of having access controls around your training set data, how you need to manage this training set over time. I'll dive into all of that. And then an LLM, that is the machine learning model that can perform these natural language processing. These are massive data sets, and it takes this massive data set to support this technology. Moving on, benefits of AI, automation, right? That's the first thing that came to mind. AI can automate workflows. I think with automation, the biggest thing that you have to understand is that within your organization, you're going to have a lot of smart people doing tasks that can be automated. As leaders, you need to be able to empower them and train them and let them understand what AI can bring to the table to identify these specific workflows that can be automated using this technology, right? There are efficiencies out there to be gained, and you have to empower your people to be able to bring those to the technology stack to be implemented, right? So automation is a huge benefit of AI. Reduce human error. AI can eliminate manual human errors in data processing. So fast and accurate. It can analyze data faster than a human, right? Let's face it, we're at that point. Eliminate repetitive tasks. So if you have some workflow that is requiring a very repetitive task, that's an area you need to focus on. That's an area that AI technologies can help provide efficiencies. And with healthcare specifically, accelerated research and development patterns. It can analyze huge amounts of data quickly, and when you are able to leverage that in healthcare, you're going to get some enormous benefits. Application and use cases of AI: speech recognition, image recognition, translation, predictive modeling, data analytics. I really want to touch on data analytics, right? And specifically how that's going to impact healthcare and HIPAA. So think about telemedicine, remote patient monitoring, right? There's massive amount of data that are coming back to your applications through remote monitoring tools, right? Wearables. And AI is able to really find patterns in that data to really help patient care. Think about things like enhanced diagnosis and disease detection, right? If you can use AI and train that AI to help in that diagnosis process, you're going to have huge efficiencies and really, I think, benefit patients overall. With data analytics in healthcare, I mean, it just goes on and on. Think about drug discovery, right? The development of new drugs. AI can help, analyze that data, provide, predictive analytics around that to kind of help move that process quicker, right? So there's a lot of really interesting application and use cases of AI in general. But when you think about healthcare specifically, when we're talking about HIPAA, there's some really fascinating things out there. And then lastly, cybersecurity. And I'm gonna take a deep dive on the cybersecurity aspect of this, and really fill you in on different ways that we're going to see AI implemented in our environments to help, mature our security stack. So really interesting time. I do want to talk about a few AI threats. Again, this goes back to risk management. These threats you need to have on your radar. So I'm going to start with the OWASP top 10 for LLMs. This came out in August of this year, and when I read this, it kind of blew my mind, right? I picked 4 here. These 4 caught my attention because these are threats that traditionally in risk management work we weren't looking at, right? So prompt injections, training data poisoning, supply chain from pre-trained models, hallucination, right? Sometimes these models can give you incorrect information, and you have to account for that with your data integrity processes. Phishing is a huge threat. Phishing has been around for a long time. It's when you think about how organizations are typically breached, it's usually started with a phishing type attack, but I don't know if anybody else on the webinar has seen any recent examples of phishing that were generated from AI related tools. It's amazing. Like, it's to be able to detect this, your end user detect these new phishing emails. It really takes some enhanced training to be able to identify these. So we're going to see moving into 2024, I believe, a lot more phishing attacks, specifically phishing attacks that are generated using AI tools. Right? AI tools are not just for security practitioners; they're also for the bad guys. And finally, polymorphic malware. I think this is going to really take off next year. Malware that can change itself, reprogram itself over time. If your systems are protected by an anti-malware solution that is signature-based, pattern-based, you're going to have a really hard time detecting some of this malware, right? So if you think about, changing the encryption, When you think about the payloads, encrypting specific files, making it look different over time, it makes it incredibly difficult to detect. So these are all threats that you need to have on your radar. Again, I really recommend pulling that new OWASP Top 10. I think it will open your eyes to a lot of the AI threats that are out there. And I hope that you're able to pull some of this into your overall risk management. So when you're performing your risk analyses, that's pretty much HIPAA 101 is to conduct a risk analysis. Make sure you're looking at these things, because I think as we go into 2024, a lot of organizations are going to be surprised and actually be impacted by some of these threats. So definitely be proactive. Try to understand some of these specific AI threats and include that in your overall risk management program. So from here, I'm going to pivot and going into specific areas within the HIPAA regulation, specific requirements, specific specification details, where we're going to see AI-related technologies deployed. So I think I went through a lot of threats. I don't want to scare anybody, but you have to think about it. The bad guys are going to have more tools at their disposal, but as a security practitioner, as a leader in security, we're also going to have additional technologies deployed to help mitigate some of these risks. So just starting the HIPAA administrative safeguards. When you look through and really digest the HIPAA security rule, you're going to see a theme around implementing policies and procedures. You're going to have requirements wanting you to implement policies and procedures for conducting risk analysis. We'll keep talking about that. Policies and procedures for implementing encryption, decryption. Most of the requirements in the HIPAA security rule relate to implementing policies and procedures to help mitigate some of these threats. What we're seeing is using AI chatbots for policy questions. So we're seeing this deployed primarily to really answer HR-related policy questions. If you think about your organization, where are policy questions most likely to come up? It's with HR, and we are seeing technologies already being implemented to support this. So think of it this way. Think of an AI chatbot, right, that is trained on your organization's policies and procedures, where I can interact with a prompt with this chatbot and ask it questions. What holidays do we have this year? Right, that's a common question that you see. A policy-related question that you would see in an organization, right? How much PTO do I have? Like, these are HR-related policy questions. They're probably the most common, but where this gets really powerful for security practitioners and security leaders is to be able to train an LLM on your information security policies. So if I'm an analyst, I can use the prompt to an AI chatbot and ask it things like, what is our policy on the usage of removable media, right? What is our standard on encryption? And that's very powerful, because when you think of a typical information security policy that an organization has implemented, it's pretty long, right? How many pages is it? 20? 50, 100, 300, right? With high trust, a 300-page policy set is not out of the question. And can you really expect, a security analyst, a developer, to truly understand 300 pages of policies? Probably not, right? So using this technology is going to increase, the maturity of your policy management over time. So I think this is a very interesting implementation of AI technologies that we're going to see into 2024. Moving on to some technical safeguards, endpoint protection. AI can help improve endpoint protection by providing continuous monitoring, tracking all endpoint activities, classification of each execution as either malicious or approved. This really speaks to the machine learning capabilities we're seeing in endpoint solutions, right? So a AI technology that's wrapped around your your endpoint protection technologies, that learning aspect can reclassify actions as malicious, right? And that helps combat zero-day threats. I think one very interesting implementation we've seen with this, you know, a lot of the major endpoint protection solutions out there are starting to implement AI chatbot, generative AI security analysts. I think just to use one as an example, CrowdStrike has been in the news. They released Charlotte AI. Charlotte is a AI chatbot that they position on top of their product, and what that's able to do is give a security analyst the ability to directly query this chatbot on common, you know, security analyst type questions, right? So be able to prompt ask, you know, hey, what are my top 3 most risky assets right now? How many detections have I seen this week? And it's able to produce that report in real time. And these are very custom queries that you're asking. So if you have that data to support it and you're able to train that, that's very powerful, right? It's a generative AI security analyst at your disposal. And then when you take it beyond the endpoint and you're able to ingest SIEM data into that, you know, that data lake, when you're able to, you know, bring all this data into, you know, your LLM, that's when it gets really powerful. And you can basically use that generative AI chatbot as a security analyst to ask very specific questions. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this over the next couple of years. Moving on, more on the administrative safeguards and vulnerability management. I think AI technologies are really going to transform vulnerability management over time. Vulnerability management is a key aspect of HIPAA compliance and the HIPAA security rule. AI can identify which assets are most critical. I think that's has been a major problem with organizations over time. You know, being able to assess which assets have the most EPHI, what are most critical, and then you can get more tactical and say, you know what, you've prioritized these assets as my most critical. Let's tweak our scan schedule and let's scan these specific assets more frequently to, let's say, less critical assets like an endpoint, right? So AI can do that analysis. You know, key factors such as asset type, location, function, usage, dependencies to determine that asset criticality score. And I think having that criticality score is very important in gaining efficiencies in your overall vulnerability management program as well. Beyond that, threat modeling, I think, is a new aspect of how AI technologies are going to help the vulnerability management over time. It's going to be able to help security teams to understand root causes, attack vectors, mitigation strategies, and actually perform like simulations, right? So let's simulate a ransomware attack and let's see where our weak points are, and these technologies will be able to do that in real time. Automation, right? From detection to analysis to remediation, you know, that's more machine learning, where if your vulnerability management processes identify a critical risk, think of it as a run book, right? So if this critical vulnerability exists, let's go ahead and mitigate that. Let's get that patch going, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for automation around vulnerability management. And it's also going to improve the detection accuracy. Everybody knows, if you've worked with vulnerability scanning tools, there are a lot of false positives, a lot of false negatives, and it takes a lot of time to really sort through this noise to focus on what the real priorities are. AI can use deep learning, anomaly detection, reinforcement learning to learn from historical data, identify patterns, and really reduce false positives, false negatives to a manageable level, right? So I think if anybody's actually, had been in a situation where they have to manage this process, I think they would agree that this is an area where AI technologies are significantly going to have a lot of efficiencies for that process. Moving on into the technical safeguards here, password management. I think with password management, protecting from phishing emails is going to be probably the biggest maturity here with these technologies. Machine learning comes into play here. So machine learning to analyze the content, metadata, patterns of incoming messages, and compare them to attacks. So I think the key there is patterns of incoming messages. We had some conversations with some folks at DHS, and I think this is brilliant, where they're doing some analysis into handling phishing emails. So if you think of a situation where an end user receives an email and it has a link in it, that is something that you can program. You can use a program to detect. And if that user clicks on the email and it comes up in a window, that's another action that can be tracked. And what DHS is kind of doing some research on, and I think this is very interesting, is having AI technology detect those two very discrete events. And when that event happens, delaying that web browser, when you click on the link, delaying that web browser for 8 seconds, right? So there's an 8-second delay in that page loading, and that's something that AI, you can automate it. And what they're finding is with that 8-second delay, people are recognizing something must be wrong, right? Something is different. And that's reducing the amount of times people are actually giving their credentials out on that link. So I think there are going to be some protections around handling of potential phishing incidents. And I think these AI tools are going to be able to really help support that and mature that in your technology stack. Other password-related implementations that we're going to see, how they relate to the HIPAA technical safeguards. User authentication, really the user behavior and analytics. AI will be more secure than conventional authentication methods such as biometrics, behavioral patterns, contextual factors. They'll reduce the reliance on passwords really over time and provide continuous authentication by monitoring the user's behavior. So more UBA type stuff. I think it kind of relates to this, the threat of phishing, very similar to traditional phishing, but voice-based phishing attacks. There is a very specific threat vector in that by using phishing technologies, you can almost phish your traditional help desk environment, right? So being able to duplicate somebody's voice, make a call into a help desk, I need my password reset. Phishing is very powerful, and you're able to duplicate individuals' voice quite easily using these AI technologies. So as a security leader, security practitioner, you're going to have to rethink how to identify users for password reset functions. I think that's going to grow more important over time, right? We need to identify these users and not just use voice as that primary identifier, even in a small organization. And I think the continuous authentication here is going to be a big change, right? So using behavior type events for authentication is going to help kind of reduce the complexity that we typically see in the current, how many passwords we manage, how is continuous authentication going to help reduce that and provide some efficiencies there. So I think that's a very interesting area that we're going to see AI affect the specific HIPAA technical safeguard. Moving on, access control. AI training data is a valuable and sensitive resource. It needs to be protected with access controls. I'm going to jump back to my previous example of using an AI chatbot to be able to specifically query policies and procedures, right? So to be able to do that, you're going to have to train that LLM on your organization's policies and procedures. So you take your policies and procedures, that's your training set, and with that LLM, you'll be able to query that directly and get that AI chatbot type functionality. I mean, at a very high level, that's the concept. But what happens, this happens over time, an organization will update a policy, right? Or implement a new policy. Well, now all of a sudden that training data needs to be updated. And it's very important to have strict access control on who has access to that training data. Version history becomes even more important. You have to, really focus in on having a source of truth on your training data and making sure that over time it's managed very closely. Because if that data is not accurate, your LLM, your AI, generative AI model is not going to provide accurate information if that training data is not. So this really speaks not only to access control, but data integrity, which is so important in the HIPAA security role. So I think that's an area that all organizations are going to really need to focus on, is protecting that training data. AI will need authorization for any updates for the training models. Again, approvals, authorizations, managing source of truth. It's going to become a requirement over time for ensuring that data integrity and accurate results from your AI tools. One more specific area in the HIPAA security role that I think we're going to see some big impacts is going to be in incident management. AI will enable faster and more accurate detection, remediation of incidents by using machine learning to learn from historical data, identify patterns and relationships, and adapt to new situations. I think incident management capabilities are going to rise over time. AI is going to really provide some automated functions. I think we're going to be able to identify incidents faster and more accurately than we previously could, right? So generally incidents are detected through tools. We'll get an alert, we'll get an email message. That email will go to some SOC. That takes time, right? The person in the SOC has to really dive in deep, do an investigation. But with AI capabilities and automation, it's going to improve the efficiency and productivity, because you can automate your IR runbook, right? So you can have machine learning really automate your IR runbook. What do we do if we detect ransomware? What do we do if we detect a denial of service attack? And have it automatically put in mitigations for that. So I think it's going to overall improve our incident detection capabilities. And I think automation is going to help in the incident handling part. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to mature your IR program using these AI related tools. So I think this is a very interesting concept. We're seeing, I've seen a couple examples of this in new product offerings, but something that I'm specifically keeping a close eye on how AI can help and make your incident management program really more effective. So a couple of key takeaways here that I want to make sure is on the top of your list. 2023 has been the year of AI. I like thinking of it, we're all new to this together. We're all seeing new things. Every week, every day, we're seeing new information in how AI is impacting the healthcare industry, how AI is impacting security operations. You don't want to be on the sidelines on this. Now is the time to really jump in. First, get your head wrapped around this. What are my options here? If I'm implementing AI, what do I need to be looking for? This is the biggest technological introduction in a long time. This isn't going away. I really kind of think of it, you know, um, almost an equivalent to when cell phone technology first started, right? That changed the world, and AI technologies is also going to change the world. So definitely don't be on the sidelines here. Be thinking about this. Be cognizant of the different threats that AI is going to bring to your organization. As we move into 2024, it's going to become even more critical. So let me go ahead and kick it back to Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
Hello there, sir. So yeah, we actually have a few questions. One of the first ones up is, will Tevora be using artificial intelligence or machine learning in their compliance activities into the future? And why or why not?
Absolutely, yes. I think any organization should be looking at specific processes where AI technology can provide efficiencies. I think if you look, I'm just going to focus on my area of expertise. I lead a compliance tower, and there's a lot of repetitive type work. So absolutely, yes, we're looking at some solutions. We're trying to implement some different workflow automation capabilities. The answer is yes. We can't go into much detail other than that, but yes, we are definitely looking to implement some process automation.
Thank you. Another question is, what are some ways our organization can start assessing our artificial intelligence implementations against industry best practices?
So there are a couple of, there's a variety of frameworks, I guess you can say, that are currently being developed. So I think primarily, I think the high trust AI assurance program is something that you need to be looking at to kind of help close some of the gaps. It's a risk-based approach, and I think AI is definitely right now a risk management problem. So I think High Trust is putting out some really great AI assurance program around this and identifying the risks. Also, HHS, that's very healthcare specific. They released a trustworthy AI playbook, and this playbook really helps an organization understand what they need to be addressing in their AI implementations. I think both of those in the healthcare industry are probably my top two to go to provide guidance for that. So yeah, there are some frameworks starting to pop up.
Great. Another question that just came in. Has standard contract language been developed to put guardrails on vendor use of AI when addressing customer data and processes?
Yeah, it has, and I think it's in its infancy. I've seen some contracts that have very detailed um, requirements where the third party actually wants to see what the training data is, right? And I've seen it contracts where they want to know everything about your AI usage, and I think it's what I've seen. It's a little too intense. I don't think there's a happy medium yet, but the answer is yes. AI usage, we are seeing that in third-party security questionnaires. We are seeing that in contract language. It's here to stay. I don't think it's fine-tuned enough. I think the industry is still trying to figure that out, but we are seeing it.
Another question, can you discuss HIPAA compliance when using LLMs?
Yeah, I think you just have to map the specific areas around that. I think data integrity is an area you really have to focus on. Access controls, you really have to focus on who has access to this data. You can really map out the different areas. That's kind of a broad question, but I think data integrity and access controls are going to be the top two on that list. Again, the HIPAA security rule is very broad and it covers a lot of security topics. But when it comes to LLMs, data integrity, access control are the primary focuses, I would say.
Perfect, thank you. I didn't see any other questions, but if you guys have anything top of mind, you want to ask it now while you have Justin. We'll give everyone a few more moments to put anything else in the chat.
All right,
Well,
Kevin. Well, if there's no other questions, please note my contact information here. You have my email address. If you have any questions,
we
you
actually do
want.
have a few more. They did come in. We just had to let people get it across. So what are some resources we can use today to begin leveraging AI in our environment?
What are some resources you can? There's a lot of offerings right now, and I think CSPs. There's a variety of CSPs out there. We all know the big players, right? You know, your AWS, GCP type environments. There's a lot of tools, and I really think that there's not one that is better than the other right now. You know, we all know, you know, OpenAI under Microsoft's purview. They're doing some really great things. And I think when it comes to managing your LLMs, AI training data, they provide a lot of toolage there. But really, all the CSPs are providing options for this. And I think you can really take that directly to them. And they all have AI teams now that can help answer your questions. You know, AWS, GCP, all of them, the CSPs out there. Leverage those, and the tool is out there.
Then another one, do you see any additions of AI related controls being added to the HITRUST framework? And if so, have they indicated which version those will surface?
That's an interesting question. You know, jumping from HIPAA to HITRUST. You know, with HITRUST, they do have that AI risk management certification. And what they've done, if you're familiar with the HITRUST framework, would probably realize that they do have specific regulatory factors that you can include to your certification efforts that kind of map back to dozens and dozens of different compliance models. And this AI risk management framework is another factor that you can include in your certification efforts. I can tell you it's primarily risk management based, right? So, you know, areas, I think the deployment of a risk management program that touches on AI is very important, and that's where HITRUST specifically is going with it. And with their E1 and I1 certification, they are offering this, call it an add-on, to really get that AI certification in your environment. So that's a really great question. There's a lot of nuances with HITRUST, and I'd be happy to kind of take that one offline if anybody wants to talk further about that.
Awesome. And I think that's it. And I think that's a good point. If you had a question that you just didn't speak up about, or if you had an answer and you want to get more in depth, your account director, respectively, that oversees your organization will be reaching out with the recording and other details from today's session. We're available. So by all means, let us know if you want to get 30 minutes on the calendar with Justin early next year, end of this year. I don't think he's going to be Ebenezer Scrooge going right into the end of the year, but we should have some availability next week and then in January. So just let us know. We really appreciate you guys giving us an hour of your time today. And if you're traveling for the holidays, travel safely.